Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving headfirst into the surprisingly complex and, let's be honest, often totally hidden world of cruise ship fees. You know, if you've ever booked a dream vacation only to find that your final bill looked absolutely nothing like that shiny promotional brochure, you are definitely not alone. So today, we're going to break down exactly what you're actually paying for, how to dodge those unexpected upcharges, and how to navigate the unwritten rules of cruising without feeling like you're being nickeled and dimed at every turn.
$500. Yep, you heard that right. That number represents the unexpected port fees and taxes a couple might see slapped onto their checkout cart literally right after clicking on an advertised $649 fare. I mean, that is a massive difference, and it completely changes how you might perceive the value of the trip you're booking. And honestly, this is just one of many financial surprises that catch even the most seasoned sailors completely off guard.
So to help you avoid that awful sticker shock, we're going to trace the financial timeline of your vacation. We'll start with the true cost of cruising, demystify daily gratuities, look at sneaky onboard service charges, budget for excursions, Wi-Fi, and food, tackle the great tipping debate, and finally, budget your final bill.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the true cost of cruising, looking at the headline price versus the real price.
An advertised rate of $649 might look like an absolute steal when you see it on a travel blog, but here's the kicker. Non-negotiable port fees, government taxes, and port expenses are almost never included in that promotional tag. You start dreaming of the Caribbean, you go to book, and suddenly, bam, your total skyrockets. And unlike an optional room upgrade, you cannot opt out of port taxes. So, comparing the advertised headline price with the actual checkout cart price is literally the only reliable way to set your real budget right from day one. Moving right along to Section 2, demystifying daily gratuities and unpacking crew tips.
Okay, so the absolute crucial point to understand here is that these are automatic, daily charges added to your onboard account. This isn't just a one-off fee you pay at the end of the trip. It's charged for every single person in your cabin for every single day you're sailing. The cruise lines usually call it crew appreciation or crew incentives. And the idea is that it pays not just your cabin steward, but this whole invisible army of kitchen crew, laundry staff, and maintenance workers who magically make your bed twice a day, keep those midnight buffets overflowing, and just ensure your vacation runs flawlessly behind the scenes.
Now, if you're budgeting for your upcoming trip based on the old rates you remember from a few years ago, you might be in for a bit of a shock. As of mid-2026, standard cabin rates went up across 5 major lines, and often pretty quietly. Carnival is now sitting at $17 per person per day, while Norwegian tops out at $20. To put that into perspective, for a couple on a 7-night cruise, that easily pushes your gratuity bill well over $200 before you've even unpacked your suitcase or ordered a single drink.
Because of these constantly shifting rates, you've actually got a strategic choice to make. Prepaying your gratuities at the time of booking effectively locks in the current rate. If the cruise line decides to raise their daily fees 3 months before you sail, well, your prepaid amount protects you from that sudden hike. On the flip side, if you wait and pay on board, it leaves you completely vulnerable to whatever the new pricing structure happens to be on the day you set sail. It's a really simple step, but one that guarantees total peace of mind before you even step foot on the boat.
All right, Section 3. Sneaky onboard service charges. Let's see how those hidden 18 to 20% fees really start to add up.
It's incredibly easy to see a beverage package advertised at, say, $75 a day and think the math is straightforward. But here is the catch. When you buy that package, or a spa treatment, or even just a single poolside margarita, an unavoidable 18 to 20% service charge is automatically layered on top at checkout. That invisible step 2, it can easily add nearly $200 to a couple's week-long drink plan. It completely shifts the value proposition, meaning you really have to do the math on the final, loaded price to figure out if that endless drink package is actually worth it for your personal drinking habits. Next up, Section 4, excursions, Wi-Fi, and food. Basically, how to budget for all the extras. As you can see, booking excursions directly through the cruise line carries a massive 200 to 300% markup compared to hiring independent local operators. I mean, a family of 4 booking 3 port stops through the cruise line could easily spend several $100s more than if they just spent, 10 minutes researching safe, independent local tours. And honestly, those local tours often offer the exact same, or frankly, much better and way less crowded experiences.
And the upcharges don't stop at excursions. The onboard tech and food offerings have their own quirks. For instance, basic Wi-Fi plans are really just for light email. If you actually want internet speeds from this decade to support video calls with the grandkids, you need the premium plan. Pro tip,
Always buy that pre-cruise to secure a 15 to 20% discount. Also, room service, which used to be a staple freebie, now carries a convenience fee of around $8 to $10 on most lines. And perhaps the craziest part, the included main dining room. You might sit down for a meal you thought you already paid for, only to find a $17 upcharge for a filet mignon or a $25 fee for a lobster tail just hiding in the fine print of the menu. Which brings us to Section 5, the great tipping debate, comparing auto tips versus cash tips.
Because those automatic daily gratuities we talked about earlier are technically voluntary, passengers fiercely clash over the best way to handle them. It basically breaks down into two distinct philosophies. On one side, you've got the pool method. This means leaving auto gratuities perfectly intact to ensure that all those unseen back-of-house staff get their fair share of the tip pool. On the exact opposite side is the direct method, marching straight down to guest services, removing the automatic charge completely, and opting to hand cash directly, only to the room steward or the specific dining servers who personally elevated your trip.
You'll often hear folks who love the direct method ask this: when you go to a restaurant, do you tip the back of the house, or do you tip the server who stood in front of you? They firmly argue a tip is a personal thank you for direct service. However, critics vehemently disagree. They argue that removing the auto gratuity unfairly punishes the invisible workers doing the really heavy lifting. And broadly speaking, there's a fascinating systemic debate going on here. Some cruisers argue that auto gratuities aren't really tips at all, but rather a disguised payroll subsidy used by billion-dollar corporations to just avoid paying their staff a higher base wage. Regardless of where you stand, understanding both sides of this argument is basically a rite of passage for any informed cruiser.
Finally, Section 6. Budgeting your final bill so you can avoid those nasty departure day shocks.
A smooth, stress-free checkout on your last morning really all comes down to preparation. Think of this as your final master checklist. First, verify taxes in your checkout cart early. Next, prepay those daily gratuities to lock in the rates. Always do the math on that 18 to 20% package service charge to neutralize the biggest budget busters. Next, choose independent excursions when you can. It'll save you a small fortune. And finally, remember to bring small cash bills. It remains an unwritten rule to tip porters $2 to $5 a bag at the terminal and your tour guides $5 to $10 for a great day in port.
So we've seen just how complicated this web of fees, tips, and service charges can get. Honestly, it's exhausting. But what if it didn't have to be this way? Since premium lines like Virgin Voyages and many sailings out of Australia already bake these costs entirely into the upfront ticket price, it leaves us with one final, fascinating question to ponder. Is it time for the entire cruise industry to finally ditch the hidden fees and just make the advertised price the real price? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you navigate your next grand voyage with absolute financial confidence.